For the coffee break, will be also an online session. There was a little mistake on your program. The next lecture is by Cesco Reale, and he is from the Swiss Museum of Games. And his lecture is titled Redefining the Abstract. What do we mean by abstract games?
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Goedendag.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yes, very well.
Nice.
So I'm going to try to share my screen. So first of all, I would like to say hello to all my board game studies friends. Sorry that I cannot be there with you all. Anyway, there is also some participation online, so I think we are going towards this kind of hybrid events. I quickly present myself. I'm a collaborator of the Swiss Museum of Games since 2008, and since 2007, I co-organized the Italian Festival of Mathematical Games. I also worked about games in a European project, universities, and more. And I'm also co-founder of the Abstracta Association. That is an association about abstract strategy games. And with this association, I will send the link in the chat later. With this association, we launched this year also the Mochalund, that is the World Championship of Strategy Games for national teams. And I'll give you a few updates. Currently at the 4th round. After 3 rounds, there are France and Estonia leading the standings. So have a look at that, and if you are interested, contact us maybe for next year. Okay, now concerning the paper, I will start by the acknowledgements. This is a paper that I published at the beginning of this year in the Abstract Games magazine. So I would like to thank the people that gave me valuable suggestions. Particularly Maurizio De Leo, Riccardo Moschetti, Maurizio Parton, Jorge Nuno Silva, Cameron Brownie, and Francesco Salerno. So the main idea of the paper is that often among abstract strategy players, we talk about what is actually an abstract game. It happens in fora, in Facebook groups, in events, etc. And by the way, I'm doing that also online and not pre-recorded, because please interrupt me if you have any questions also during my speech. And often this happens in many philosophical discussions, not only for abstract games, but especially people that are not linguists think that there is a Platonic world of the ideas, and then, for example, abstract games are there in this world of ideas, and then I think that I see this object better than you, and so I try to find the truth in a certain way. And actually, it's not like that. The approach, I think, is this kind of approach is false from an epistemological point of view. And so the correct approach, in my opinion, is that there is an expression, abstract games, that is used not only in English, by the way, in several languages. And so let's try to understand how players use this term and which is the real interest of those players. So I would say a descriptive approach instead of a prescriptive approach. Also one important linguistic aspect is that I agree that abstract has a clear meaning, but in the context of strategy games, it took a meaning that is slightly different. Let me do an example. The Italian citizenship is often overlapped with the fact that the person speaks Italian. I would say for most people, it's the overlap is very big. But the fact to be able to speak Italian has nothing to do with the definition of Italian citizenship, because you can be Italian and maybe you don't speak Italian, or vice versa. Maybe you speak Italian and you are not Italian. So I think there is something similar for abstract games. And so abstract, of course, is related with the absence of a theme. But what we mean by abstract games, I think, is not related with the theme. So this is where the paper came from. And now I'm going to try to analyze what is normally meant with abstract games in the context of abstract strategy players. So let's begin with a couple of definitions. There is, for example, a definition of combinatorial games. Combinatorial games is, let's say, the technical term used in mathematics. And if we try to analyze this definition, for example, there is a definition by Alberto Bertoni, University of Milan. Number one, there are two players. Number two, there is a set of possible positions of the game, which we will call states. Number three, the rules of the game specify for each state and each player which possible future states can be reached. Number four, the two players alternate their moves. And number five, the game ends when there are no more possible moves. Now, among these 5 points, only 3 and 4 are interesting for the players, the abstract strategy players. Because, for example, there are two players. Many strategy players play also strategy games that are for more than two players, for example. And a precision about the number 4, clarification, is that when we say the two players alternate their moves, it means that no simultaneous moves are allowed in this definition, okay? And this is often the case in most strategy games that abstract players like or discuss at least. So in this definition, we have a couple of points that are interesting for us. Let's see another definition that is, by the way, one of the most recent ones by Aaron Siegel, University of California, Berkeley. And he says that combinatorial games are two-player games with no hidden information and no elements of randomness. And then there are 4 distinctions: impartial or partisan games. So partisan is like chess when you have different sets of pieces, and impartial is like NIM when the set of pieces is the same for both players. Then number 2, games with cycles or without cycles. Number 3, finite or transfinite games, like games that are infinite on an infinite board, for example. And then number 4, games with a goal to win or to lose, like when you play chess and you win if you receive a checkmate, for example. Now, this definition, I would say, is closer to what we are looking for. And now let's see which is our definition. So we will define several layers, basically. The pure strategy games, we will use this term to refer to combinatorial games. So combinatorial games is just a more mathematical, more technical term. And then we'll try to do also another definition that is broader for abstract games that are a superset of the pure strategy games. And the abstract games, this definition is more meant for players than for mathematicians. So here you can see a picture from the Italian Festival of Mathematical Games, where every year I organize this multi-abstract game tournament. So by combinatorial games or pure strategy games or pure abstract games, we mean games in which, given a game situation and sufficient calculation or reflection time, a player or a fairly powerful calculator can analyze the tree of possible games up to a defined depth of analysis and with respect to a given evaluation function, and identify the best move or the set of best moves with equal merit. So in other words, an abstract game, a combinatorial game, in this sense is a game in which you can analyze the position and understand which is the best move. These are games that have no hidden information, have no elements of randomness, have no simultaneous moves, and no possible alliances, so two players. For example, chess and Go. Okay, now let's propose also a definition for abstract games, or abstract strategy games, so the superset. And the definition that we propose is that this is a superset of pure strategy games, which also includes games that are very close to pure strategy games, although not exactly within the definition. For example, if they lack only one of these characteristics. For example, backgammon has chance, but is often, not always, but often considered an abstract game, and anyway, it is in the interest of these kind of players. Chinese checkers for more than two players has possible alliances and is definitely also in the interest of such players. 55 Stones, that is the modern Mancala, has simultaneous moves, but still fall in this category. And finally, Stratego has clearly hidden information, but the name itself, Stratego, means strategy, and shows that it is in the interest of such players. So now let's try to see some clarification on some of these concepts. Then at the end, I will show you a diagram of strategy games, abstract games, and also a proposal of, let's say, very qualitative measure of the degree of strategy of a game. So first of all, number of players. As I said, games for two players are certainly in the interest of strategy players. Chinese checkers is even for 3, 4, or 6, 5 or 6 players. The number of players doesn't change the nature of the game, so it's still considered an abstract an abstract game. Although in the mathematical definition is not a combinatorial game. Then of course we have team games, like 2 against 2. These are also in our interest. And then we have even games for less than 2 players, for example, solitaires for 1 player, or even we can extend the definition to 0 players, such as Conway's Game of Life. And I cite all the paper that analyzes 0-player games. Of course, it's a little bit at the border of the definition of game, but still there is some research in that direction. Then finiteness. Infinite games are, for example, games in which there are potential infinite moves. For example, in Bao, we have, not me, but have been discovered some moves that actually are considered now illegal, but there are infinite. So you have to sow the seeds, and then there are some situations in which you never end to sow, because you always have to retake and go on, and so basically the opponent will never play. So this is an example of infinite games. And then games with cycles. For example, well-known example is Go with the rule of Ko, in which you have the case of triple Ko, and in which basically the best move for each player is continuing to play ABC, like in this example, and so the game would never end, and so there are some specific set of rules to solve these cases that, by the way, are also different according to Chinese rules, Japanese rules, etc. Then we have discrete transfinite games. For example, the Berlecamp's entrepreneurial chess that is played on a infinite chessboard, or the fractal tic-tac-toe, that is a game that I invented for an exhibition about fractals. You can see an example here, in which so at the beginning of the paper, in which the boards of the game at each step increases the number of cells, let's say, of places where you can play. And then you have also continuous transfinite games, such as, for example, Tamsk. Here you can see that Tamsk is a game in which the pieces are glass hours. And so when the glass hour finishes, you lose the piece, but you can move it before the sun finishes. You can move it and then acquire new time. And so it's time continues because the best moves depend on each second in which you are, because after a certain time, even if the position on the board is not changed, but the best move has changed because now you have to save that glass hour, for example. And another example is also spatial continuous. It's continuous Go, where you play Go not on a board with a 19 times 19, but on an empty space without lines. You play wherever you want, as soon as there is space to place the stone. So all these games, even if they are on the border of the definition of games, they are still in the interest of abstract strategy players, and so we can consider them abstract games. Then we can briefly talk about perfect and complete information. This is the notion of lack of hidden information, but there is a little difference. I'm going to, it's a very complicated argument or topic, but I will discuss it very briefly. Basically, perfect information games are information in which each player knows perfectly the situation of the game. The perfect information games nonetheless include chance. So backgammon is a perfect information game in the sense that you can still find the best move from a probabilistic point of view. Then complete information games are games in which you know perfectly which are the payoffs of the other players. So which are the aims and the preferences of the other players. For example, in Chinese checkers, you could play against maybe 2 or 3 players or 6 players, other 5 players, 6 in total, and then maybe some player he doesn't care if he becomes 2nd or 6th. He wants just to win. So even if he's 2nd, he will do anything to get the 1st place. And other players maybe no. They say, okay, I'm 2nd. I'm not going to risk strange things, and maybe I will become 6th. I have already a very good position. So this can change your own analysis of the game. So we can say that there is imperfect information when there are hidden elements due to the game mechanism, and for example, with hidden cards or simultaneous moves. And there is incomplete information when there are hidden elements due to the player preferences. Now, under all definitions of perfect and complete information, all pure strategy games have perfect and complete information. So they don't have hidden information. Then another is cooperative games. There are some rare cooperative abstract games. This is the oldest example I know is Maze from 1982. And at the Italian Festival of Mathematical Games, we have also a contest of new games, so unpublished games, abstract. And some years ago, in 2018, we proposed as a theme, I'm in the jury of this contest, we proposed cooperative abstract games. And so we received very interesting proposals. But on the market, they are difficult to find. Then finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, I will propose also the degree of strategy on a scale. So in this proposal of definition of abstract games, abstract has not to be considered as yes or no, as binary conception, but as scalar concept. So we could say that this game is pure strategy game, so let's say 100%, or another game like Backgammon is maybe very abstract, so very strategic, but not completely. So in this sense, I propose some categories and then a way to calculate this index of, let's say, strategy. So the categories are chance, perfect and complete information, simultaneity of moves, two-player or not two-player, so possibility of alliances. And also I added a category that I had never found in literature, but that in my opinion is quite important, that is human calculability, or we might say also transparency. And this means how a game is easy, how easy is for a player to understand the consequences of his own moves or her own moves. And for example, in Bao, it's quite more difficult than in Go, for example, exactly for the fact that you have multiple sowing, and so it's more difficult to understand the consequences of your current move. And I cite an example that is called Wend, is a Swiss startup that created a game to analyze the potential interaction of human-computer interaction in playing games, like in cooperation. And so this game was conceived on purpose to be, in certain conditions, very difficult to foresee. And so there are some conditions in which really you play and you have no idea of which will be the result of the game, of the move, sorry. So I think that this also is an important category to take into account. Now to finish, I will present this diagram and then the list, the degree of strategy. So this was created by Maurizio De Leo. You can see here on the left the two players games, so no alliances, in purple. In blue, let's say, we have sequential games, so no simultaneous moves. In pink, we have no hidden information. And in green, we have deterministic games, so no chance games. And then when you do the intersection of all four categories, we have the combinatorial games. This is also the mathematical definition that we have seen at the beginning. Then the abstract games, we enlarge this set to include also games for more than two players, like Chinese checkers for 6 players, for example. And then in green, we have the other sets in which we lack one or the 3 other characteristics, so sequential, no hidden information, or deterministic. For example, here we have Backgammon that is not deterministic. Here we have simultaneous moves chess, in which there are simultaneous moves. And here we have Stratego, which has hidden information. So Stratego is like chess, but you don't know which pieces So you don't know, you see the same position, the same appearance of all the pieces of your opponent. So you don't know which piece moves in which way. And so in this green subset that I called abstractish, some games, not all, some games are often considered like strategic abstract games or less strategic abstract games, such as those that I have just mentioned. And then finally, I show you this set. So this table in which I have categorized so chance, human calculability, or maybe let me go to the other that is probably better. Here, that's this one. So here you can see the 5 categories that I have mentioned previously. And then for each category, I attributed a score from between 2 and -2. And then I have also some weights, because chance is more important than simultaneity of moves, in my opinion. So, or at least I have discussed also, it's not only my opinion. And then what is the result? Well, in dark yellow, you can see the combinatorial games. And you can see that actually most combinatorial games are on the top of the list. And then it makes sense, I would say, yes, Chinese checkers for 2 or Awele have full score, but then you have, for example, Stratego, Bridge, and other games. So you can then analyze in the paper the details. And of course, roulette has a very low score, even if it is without theme. So this, but finally, this is the conclusion. So once again, the theme is often present in this kind of games, of high strategy games, but is not part of the definition, basically. Otherwise, roulette would be often discussed in such groups, but it's of course not in the interest of these players. So that's all. Thank you very much, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Cesco. Very interesting how you have made these classifications and used these groups for making different stratifications of the games. Are there any questions for Cesco? Yes? Jorge?
Hello, Cesco. Speaking.
Olá. Bom dia.
Bom dia, tudo bem? We have been arguing this a lot, Cesco and I, so I just want to repeat that the definition of combinatorial game cannot be relaxed. And it is essential in the definition that it's a last player win or a last player loses. There's no other way. You cannot get away from this. So to say that X is a combinatorial game, or chess is a combinatorial game, or Go, they are not combinatorial games. So, I mean, you can build a theory based on combinatorial game theory to address those games, but that's hard work. It's kind of manual work. You have to fabricate another game that talks to both the original and the pure mathematical structure, and you go through that, like barrel camps Go and things like that. But we cannot say that the common chess is combinatorial. No. There are positions based, for instance, in Zugzwangs, where you can apply the theory, combinatorial game theory, and it's fine. So I think that your classification is great, and I have this is just a comment. I have a question, though. When you use the term calculability, is not that what we usually call clarity of a game?
Okay, first of all, I'll answer the question. Yes, I said maybe also transparency. Yes, this is more or less the idea. And then to answer to your comment, I have addressed your comment. I don't remember if I told you, but yes, I did address your comment in the final version of the paper, so you can find that it's at the beginning. And I have also done some research about the topic, and I have found that actually some scholars disagree with you. And so there are some scholars that agree with you and some others that disagree with you and that do consider chess and Go as combinatorial games. Now I know what you think, and I mostly agree with you, but I have just cited what I have found in literature, and I have precised that in some scholars do this also, this slightly different definition.
That's good that we keep, we maintain this subject to further discussions in person later. Nice to see you.
Yes, with pleasure.
Hello.
Do you have a question, Dr. Balambal?
Yeah. Thank you. Just I would like to say, I had one more point. When Cisco was telling about the game to be played by one player, there is one star game. We play there in India. I think in other places also they may play. So there may be 10 dots, but 9 coins only will be used. Only one person has to play. And there is a time limit they set for this game. That is how otherwise there is nothing serious about this game. But when they have set a time limit for this game to finish within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you have to finish this, all the coins to be taken away, then it is a very interesting thing. In villages, I tell you, this game has become a great, we can say, game of gambling. Because they will say that they will part into 2 parties, and one party will say he will not finish it, and the other one will say he will finish it. So they will say there will be bidding also, money.
I want to ask this question from David King. For Chesco, could you talk more about your methodology for determining which games are considered abstract or not by the player community?
Oh, well, this is not really part of the methodology. It's just a qualitative consideration. I have discussed with several players, and I convinced actually several players that the theme is not part of the definition. And then I have analyzed, but just qualitatively, not quantitatively, the fact that roulette is never a topic in, for example, in Abstract Nation on Facebook or in the Italian group of giochi astratti, etc. And other games that have a theme, like Hive. Hive is a pure strategy game, but with a clear theme. You have the bee, you have the grasshopper, etc. So there is a clear theme, but it is fully in our interest. So this is more a qualitative approach.
Okay, thank you very much. Because of the time, we have to close now. Thanks again for your lecture and your comments.
Thank you very much. Anche wel.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Yeah, we have coffee break now.